Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
In honor of Black History Month, we like to pay tribute and showcase the great defining Black characters and figures the world has come to love.
This year we're honoring an actor we recently lost, who famously paved the way for Black excellence in Hollywood, the great Sidney Poitier. To do it right and see him off proper, we're highlighting 4 of his iconic contributions to cinema.
So, without further delay, let's explore the history of the Defiant Ones on Black History Heroes 2022, the year of Poitier.
Yeah.
I know I kind of just added that on to the end, but I don't know, Dragon, I think it fits, right? The year of Poitier.
Well, it's not inaccurate.
All right. So, Dragon, here we are. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was the thing that kicked us off with our Black History Heroes month. And I got to tell you, that thing really, outside of the one obvious, a couple scenes, like quick blink and you miss it scenes, it really held up. Of course, the Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn element of it. The backstory really kind of adds a whole layer of kind of a Hollywood legend to that whole thing, on the production side of things. This Dragon, I knew nothing about this going into it. Like, I don't know a thing about the other two either, except they call me Mr. Tibbs. Dragon, I know at one point that's going to be coming up. That's about all I know. This is a bit of a blind spot for me in my filmography. So I'm really stoked to be kind of revisiting some of these classic films that I have never actually explored. And I got to say, Dragon, the Defiant Ones, oh man, I was very pleasantly surprised by this, with an unfortunate asterisk. I love everything with Tony Curtis and
I think we might have the same unfortunate asterisk, but keep going.
Okay. The bumbling police.
Okay, that's not the asterisk. I had a far different asterisk, but yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. That's a surprise. That's a surprise.
I got a different. I'm not crazy about that, but I had a more of a glaring one.
Dragon, the bumbling police to me, like, it's not as bad as like the stuff from Guess Who's Coming to Dinner that we don't like. Like the brief fleeting things, but it's more prominent. And I don't know, man. I mean, it's like, I get that it's the comedy relief of the movie, but it doesn't pull away. But I'm saying, like, the Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier stuff is so compelling that I gotta say, every time that we cut away from them to just like, okay, there's the bumbling police officers doing their work. They're bickering about the dogs. They're playing the jazz music. Dragon, it's so lopsided in terms of which storyline is more compelling here, and the storyline that is compelling is captivating and engrossing, and I love it, and I love the ending, so it's a wonderful, remarkable film with that little bit of an asterisk with the side plot. I don't know. That's just kind of where I stand on it right now.
Right. I mean, I agree with you on that in terms, but I was going to get into that a little bit later on. I have like 2 gripes with the movie. Oddly, it comes in twos, much like a duo film would you kind of expect, I guess. I don't know. I have so you're cutting away to the sheriff's thing, but then there's the other element, which we'll get to. But anyways, my thoughts. So this movie was always on my radar because essentially, this was the original buddy movie. I mean, I'm hard pressed. Before this, but this is, for all intents and purposes, this is at the very least the most iconic, original buddy movie that you had. And the reason it was always on my radar. So I've seen this before. I never went to the remake. I've only seen the original. This was one of the major models for Toy Story. That's why I know about this movie. Specifically, Dynaco, the Dynaco gas station onward, that section of Toy Story.
Okay, I can see it. Sure.
So again, basically, Toy Story, the buddy movie aspect of Toy Story is the Defiant Ones in 48 hours. That's essentially what the basis is for the buddy movie kind of format for Toy Story. And again, Dynaco onwards to the end is the Defiant Ones full on, and it's awesome. You know, the word on the street is that Katzenberg, that was his suggestion, one of the good ideas he had on Toy Story. But I got to be
I could
honest.
see it. I could see it. Katzenberg's crazy enough. It's like, the clock's right twice a day. It could
That's the
be.
thing. I don't want to give him a
Dragon
win.
Katzenberg gave us Lion King too. Don't discredit the man.
I know, that's the thing. You know what's funny though? I've always kind of wanted to just kind of not go along with that because I've seen things that could have feasibly been right after that meeting, but still, all I've seen of. It's like John Lasseter and company saying a buddy picture. We're gonna do a buddy picture and break into the bullpen on camera. So it seems like it was their idea, and it was him and Andrew standing in the room. So I like to withhold that from Katzenberg because it's an insanely good idea. But yeah, bro. Anyway, so point being, so I've always the movie's always been on the radar for that reason. But the movie itself, it's a classic. Very much, very ahead of its time for 1958 in so many ways, being a Stanley Kramer film, him taking on the dicey issues of the time.
Dragon Kramer, I need to look into his filmography, man. If this month has taught me anything, I think I found a new favorite director of this era.
I mean, Kramer and Lumet are kind of like the duo in terms of really kind of breaching the big social issues. They're kind of like they're very much the go-to directors and that sort of thing. Anyway,
I'm really glad we decided to do this theme because I feel like it's given me a new appreciation for classic cinema, and I think it's going to, to potentially open some doors for me going forward. Kind of like have some, get some exploration into older films that I maybe would have passed up earlier. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this going forward, Dragon. I think I think you and I are both learning some things along the way.
Yeah. So again, this movie overall, it's a buddy movie amidst the race relations. Very much, I love just the instant visual way we convey in the story a way to summarize the difference to overcome in the adventure. Like they're two men of different races chained together and they're on the run. It's like that summarizes everything just so perfectly in your premise, just in one visual image, much like our poster kind of does here.
Okay, so what I love about that is that we loop back around where that chain becomes the visual metaphor.
Yep.
And then Dragon, we're not going to get fully into it yet.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, that line towards the end, man. That line towards the end where the chain is also used as a metaphor. Oh, stab me right in the heart, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Anyway, so again...
to me, that was more powerful than anything that Poitier did in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Poitier has a lot of really great kind of one-liners in this. It's like, that's why you get Poitier.
I feel like that moment that I'm talking about right now is kind of like this movie's equivalent to, like you see yourself as a black man. I see myself as a man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So again, overall, very solid story, but I will say this is the thing I have rewatching the movie, though, all the way through and everything, is that because usually when it's I'm going to the train scene, but beyond, that's usually I got to go to that train scene.
No, honestly, Dragon, I enjoyed the journey, man. And
no, the journey's great. I'm just saying ordinarily.
One thing I want to throw in with my thesis really quick, I'm sorry, is this movie kind of felt like a more low stakes version of The Revenant in a good way, as far as like, oh man, I can really feel the actors kind of physically going through all this, like climbing through the mud and, their clothes being soaking wet. Like in some ways it is pretty visceral.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, again, that's the 50s for you too. You get to see a lot of that on screen. Yeah. So, anyway, like I was saying, so very solid story, but does, I feel, on the rewatch, suffers from obviously suffers from padding with the manhunt. I think you and I are very simpatico with that kind of the manhunt cutbacks. Are like, I don't think we necessarily needed to see all of that. We're kind of distracted from you.
I don't mind it being there. I just think that they cut away to it too much, and it kind of just becomes a distraction at a certain point.
I'm going to pull the analogy. I don't know if I pulled this on the. I know I pulled it recently. I forget if I pulled it when we talked about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. We might have the whole the comedian and like the romance plot thing. Where you have Abbott and Costello movie, but hey, it's buck privates, but I don't care about the love triangle. I want to get to the funny guys. guys in the military. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. As opposed to the funny guys in the military, we have the the compelling social dynamics of racial diversion put
That's
on
what I'm saying.
screen in front of our face.
You're there for the main attraction,
Yeah,
not the in quotes plot. So not to a degree here. Obviously, it's all building to the same road. It's only why are we cutting away from the good stuff?
Exactly.
So you have that, which I agree with you with. But by the same token, though, the thing I'm more of a major issue with that I think was an element.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this, and
I'm gonna frame it like this, and we'll talk about it later on.
Okay.
I think there was an out of left field contrivance right before our climax that I felt really like. That's what gets us to the awesome train scene. I forgot all about that. Really, that's what gets us there. That's really out of left field.
I am prepared to defend it, but we'll get there, sir. We'll get there.
Anyway, so just a great film about teamwork and overcoming differences and biases. So it's an excellent film on the whole. Let's be honest. It's the Defiant ones. We have no buddy picture without this movie.
Dragon, that's the thing. Like even as recently as today, when I was sitting down to watch this, I really didn't know just how much of of an influential thing this was going to be, as far as like, oh man, like, this is really shaping storytelling in a lot of ways here. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Anytime you've seen two people handcuffed together, Defiant ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh God, Dragon, hold on. Before we get into the historical significance of this and the background of the whole, I just got to throw out an idea that my friends and I had in high school for a movie that was weirdly similar to this, but it would have been like the so bad it's good equivalent to it. All right.
What is it?
All right. It was called Border Patrol.
Border Patrol.
Okay. And it stars Larry the Cable Guy and Carlos Mencia. And Carlos Mencia is the I don't have to paint the picture any further, right?
Yeah, this sounds like garbage.
Yeah, they're chained together. You know who Larry plays, you know who Mencia plays. I don't want to get into it as far as the racial context goes, but yeah, it was a fun time.
Okay.
Anyways, okay.
All right. So,
but that just goes to show like how influential this is, as far as like even me and my dumb friends in high school like invented like a stupid so bad it's good in joke of a movie premise based on something like this.
So this was the first time you've seen this then?
What?
So was this the first time you've seen this?
This was the first time I've seen this. Yeah, I'm just saying by way
of permeated the culture to the point.
Yeah, by way of pop culture osmosis. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were. You guys want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, Dragon. I'm sorry. That was like a long, convoluted, and potentially politically incorrect way for me to get to that. But anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. On to greener pastures, Dragon. Let's get to some background.
Yeah, so as we stated, directed by the great Stanley Kramer, who after this, I believe 9 years later, went on to direct Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier again. So essentially what happened here is, Kramer, Kramer has a style. He likes to take on the dicey issues of the time, whether it be like the nuclear bomb or race relations. I believe just wanted to tell that story, and he had come across Sidney Poitier, and he just fell in love with this guy. He says, I have to put this guy in a movie and put him opposite somebody because people need to see how good this guy is. Because at this point, if I recall, basically the way it went down, if memory serves, is this came before the big breakout thing that everyone started to take notice of Poitier for. This is when we kind of put Poitier on the big screen in a major way before he had like bit parts and other things. And then this led to like the one like, oh, Poitier, I know that guy, and let's put him in that Guess Who's Coming to Dinner movie when it comes up, that sort of thing. So it's kind of
sure.
So this one really is. I would attest. This is the big break for Poitier. Really, again, he's like co-lead with another guy. This is pretty big for him. So anyway, so. There is some there's a lot of arbitration over the casting of Tony Curtis, though, because the way the story goes, and it's kind of changed in Hollywood, is Originally, they wanted Robert Mitchum for the role, but he didn't buy the story because as a kid he was actually part of like a chain gang, I believe around. I don't know if it was in the South or not, but he basically called BS and like, wait a minute, there is no way in heck. I don't care if they're going to throw out that line.
Yeah, it's a movie, Robert.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the point. There's a question of I like to think that. I mean, look, if the guy was part of a chain gang, I think that's I find incredible. I had no idea he was part of a chain gang. I have a hard time believing that to be true, honestly, myself. But okay. I know there's arbitration. Whether
like I said, just the way that they filmed this so practically, as far as their clothes being soaking wet and rolling around in the mud and everything. Like, what more do you want?
I mean, the movie, I like how the movie calls it. I don't know if it was because of Mitchum's complaint or not, but I love just the movie has that line of like, well, the judge has a sense of humor. Or like the warden has a sense of humor, like, cuffing these two guys together.
Okay, that is a great thesis statement for the rest of the movie, man. I love that as a line to just kick things off. That really worked.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. Anyways, the point being, Mitchum, he didn't quite buy it. And there was also there's the rumors, but I believe that to be true. At least that's what I guess is a status put forward. Being true is always a question of. There were a lot of actors at the time who were maybe a little trepidatious to work with a black actor in a leading role like this. Mm-hmm. This is very big for the time. So this there might have been some trepidation there by Mitchum as well. Anyway, so they then went to Brandon. Now, Brandon wanted to do it, but I forget what movie he was doing at the same time. But essentially, Poitier was the X factor, and they had to move the schedule around to fit in Poitier to get him in the movie. So Brando, basically, because of scheduling conflict, they couldn't get him, and Tony Curtis was looking for a movie to break his pretty boy image because everyone's like, "Oh, Tony Curtis, he's such a heartthrob. Oh, look at he's all he's such a heartthrob. We gotta pretty him up." It's like Tony Curtis wanted to deflate, go the opposite way with that typecast. Like, no, I want a dirty kind of bigoted character, man. I
know very little about Tony Curtis, Dragon, but he was he really, really captivated me in this role.
Of course, Tony Curtis offhand, we both kind of know for that Better Call Saul gag with the whole give me ringlets like Tony Curtis from Spartacus.
Okay, so Spartacus. But Dragon, is there anything that you and I would both actually have seen him in?
That's the thing. Spartacus is the go-to for me with Tony.
That's Curtis, the go-to with him. Yeah,
that is like the go-to. I mean, I know Tony Curtis.
This is the thing, Dragon. That, beyond just me wanting to look into Stanley Kramer's filmography, I'm like, oh, Tony Curtis. I like this guy as an actor. I want to see more. What else did he do?
Spartacus
kind of a rabbit hole of classic cinema, if you will.
So Spartacus is the one that made him like the icon of cinema. That is honestly, the one that
Spartacus is one of the few Kubrick movies I haven't seen, so maybe that'll be on my to-do list.
Right. Wait, did Kubrick do Spartacus?
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one of his early ones.
Yeah, we may have to. I'm saying I'm thinking Kubrick. I'm always thinking like late Kubrick. I never think about early Kubrick. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so point being, because of scheduling conflicts, we had Tony Curtis, and there's a little bit of trepidation on both sides with this. And, ultimately, it seemed like a process where they kind of really became buddies over time, much like the movie itself, where, he's seeing Poitier in action. And Tony Curtis was really going along. I don't know I assume he won on this, but we're looking at a poster where this is like one of those late release posters, so I don't know. I don't know if this just they goofed the poster or not, but Tony Curtis really argued to have Sidney Poitier get top billing, which, I mean, it's two guys. Uh-huh. The point being, he really went the long way to make sure Poitier got noticed for this film, and they both got Oscar nominations, so it did pay off in a regard for sure. So, yes, as you kind of hyped up to this point, Tiki, very physically taxing shoot for the actors on the run because as you see them getting, tired
you can just tell it's it's on the screen in very vivid detail.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And one last fun fact, and we'll jump right into it.
Okay.
So. The word is Elvis wanted to be in this movie playing opposite Sidney Poitier.
Oh my God, dude! Can you imagine?
He wanted to play the Jackson character. You know
why?
This is gonna be hype.
Oh God, that would have been amazing.
This is gonna be hype for the new Elvis movie that's coming. It's supposed to come out this year.
Okay.
Do you know why Elvis didn't take on this role?
Why? Oh God.
Colonel Tom Parker.
Oh man.
Bum bum bum. Hanks. Bum bum bum.
Hanks. He's playing a villain.
That would have been really huge if Elvis did play opposite. Because remember, the black community always,
Dude, that
had
would have.
Elvis's.
Oh man, I
number
mean,
for the-
yeah, just the what if of that. Jesus.
Yeah, that would have been huge. I mean, plus it would have given
It
Elvis
would
an
have
actual.
been.
It would have. Elvis always got like the kind of the crap movies in the history of like, hey, it's Elvis sings a song. We titled the movie after it. Just he mainly sings through the duration. He's being all heartthrob. That's about all he's got. It doesn't really get any range in any.
I have
movies.
a soft spot for Blue Hawaii, but
that's what I'm saying. But isn't Blue Hawaii is more of like, hey, taking the landscapes and the vibe?
yeah,
and
it absolutely is. It pretty much is a travelogue with some Elvis songs, Dragon.
That's the thing. This would have been like an actual performance.
Like, I will say this: like, Elvis is not the type of person like I feel like we could do a theme month on and be really optimistic about it.
Sadly,
at least for the taste that you and I share, you know.
We would be more pressed for like the tributes to Elvis, which of course would capturing your Johnny Bravos and your Lilo and Stitches, and and
right. Oh yeah,
totally. You know.
Anyways,
okay. All that said, let's just dive right into it.
Okie dokie. So, what do you think of the kind of the narrative structure we have with the song? It plays at 3 pivotal points, pretty much exactly the beginning, middle, and end of the film.
Yeah, I really like Long Gone because clearly, it teases up, the running theme of the film, which is, they're trying to run away. And it's also kind of like perhaps if you want to read into it as well, you kind of have like layers of, like freedom being taken away and in jeopardy. So a little bit of that. The big thing for me was with the opening is in 3 minutes, Tiki, in 3 minutes, you get your premise and everything. Most movies that take like 10 minutes to get there, like 3 minutes get your premise.
I most definitely noticed that. I have in my notes. It's like, oh, okay, that was quick.
And like a minute of that is just him singing before they say, hey, stop singing. So
that's pretty much just the opening credits.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the opening
It's like the overture, if you will.
Like when the car wrecks, it's like we kind of essentially it's end credits, it's end of the opening credits. It's like, so it sets up our full circle arc where we have like 2 big things happen. We have the song, and we have John Joker Jackson. I gotta admit, I completely forgot about the Holy Joker was his middle name. They kept calling him Joker. It's kind of
I love that his name is basically Joker through the whole movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have Joker Jackson, and we got Noah Cullen here, and they're chained together. And again, Warden and/or the judge has a 6th sense of humor, which is funny. Also, again, so big thing. So again, we have the song, and he calls him the N-word right at the top of the movie. He says, "We're not playing around with this movie, kids." He just
all right. So I want to address this, Dragon, because this is what I think is brilliant about the movie as far as that goes. We hear that word, as far as I know, basically like at the beginning.
Yeah,
and it goes on to affect the dynamic of these two in a very powerful way. But the movie isn't about like flaunting it as a slur. It's about the effect that words have on people.
It's the
and that's one of the big themes of the movie that comes out of that is we have a lot of like really in-depth conversations about words, like the word thanks, for example. Just little inconspicuous, very innocent everyday words that can be used against you.
You know what I respect that this movie does, and again, it's so trippy because this was done like literally kind of the beginning we were doing this sort of stuff, and we don't really do it since. Is that we have an actual discussion about the N-word with between the 2 races versus just the usual. It's like we just say the N-word is verboten, but we never talk about why it's verboten. It's always it's verboten. We don't say it. If you say it, bad stuff's going to happen. Which again is absolutely true, but it's still the fact of like this movie acknowledges so brilliantly with the Joker character that it's kind of generational. Like it's like racism that's grandfathered. He doesn't hate anyone, but it's just he thinks, oh, that's what we call black people. When we're not being like overly sensitive to that sort of thing. It's like he grew up not knowing any better. And again, it's like something really impressive about that. We're like, yeah, that's why it's kind of become that way. I don't know. I really admired it for like having a conversation about this sort of thing. And like, again, we kind of nudge Joker in the direction of, maybe I should treat people of the opposite race nicer, because I don't like the way certain words
Oh, dear God. It's like a really good Green Book. On some level it's true.
Well, yeah, but again, it's a little different.
It's like Green Book with stakes.
Well, again, those characters didn't dislike each other at the start, though. That's the difference. They didn't really hate each other at the start.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, but regardless, speaking of which, again, word said, fight breaks out in prison transport, derails and leads to the escape of only 2 prisoners. And we have that great trailer line, Tiki. Oh, those 2 escaped? Chances are they won't get 5 miles without killing each other. Like, yeah, there's a setup for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great thesis statement of a line for sure.
I gotta be honest, that's all I really needed of the sheriff and the sheriff and the police captain. That's
Yeah,
all I needed.
I wish the movie would have agreed with you on that statement, Dragon.
Yeah, because that's all you need. Is okay, they're setting up. Yeah, like they're probably gonna. I can't.
And I've got to be honest with you, like, in the time that they spent with the, do you want to just address this up front? Do you want to just get it out of the way? Just get all of the police stuff out of the way?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I quite, Tegan, let me ask you this. Do you think now, if we took on the stories, given like what we've done with like stuff like the Albuquerque verse and everything, I know that's on the short form with the TV, but still, like, the serialized TV kind of cinematic nature we do now, but even as a movie, do you think we're in a place now where this plot line would either be, severely, skewed down or completely excised? Because the way we have it now, there is no payoff or anything real. Like, if we just had this sort of like, we tee it off like, oh, they're probably going to kill each other, and like we set up at the top, okay, well, they're going to search for them, and maybe they're sending the dogs at them, and basically we don't see them for the entire movie except maybe some dogs in the background or something. Like, we hear that they're encroaching, and we the audience are dreading they're encroaching.
Yeah, I absolutely think that the off-screen presence would be more powerful, where it's like, we know that they are in pursuit, but Drake, we don't need the check-ins, right? Let's just go
right.
over it.
That's the thing, but I don't think it was. I think it was just like, it was fear that the audience wouldn't get it back in the 50s.
It's dated storytelling. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, guys, the audience knows that they're being they're chained for the whole movie. You get it? Okay, they're literally chained, as in they are wanted men, as in people. We saw not everyone died in that crash. All we need to establish that there aren't the only 2 survivors, that there are the only 2 escapees.
So my big problem with this is it's just like every time they cut to it, it's just a tonal whiplash, and it's like, as much as I hate to say it, Dragon, like it's not anything where it's like an oh, that's uncomfortable in today's context or anything like that. It's just kind of stupid, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I think ultimately it might be, Tiki. I'm just gonna be completely wrong about this, but it felt like to me. I'm not saying that this necessitates like the constant check-ins, mind you, but at the very least, what we do with this story, what we're trying to accomplish, is 2 things. Mainly, I think the studio reason, if there were one, would be, okay, we can't show the police in a really negative, in too negative a thing. That's why we have to have the one sheriff say, hey, don't sick the dogs on them. That's why.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like if we were to remake it today, I feel like the sheriff would be probably like a more fleshed out, sympathetic character.
And it bothers
me.
Because
I feel like there was an inkling of that,
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. So that's what bothers me.
I kind of got like maybe like a very, very, very early version of like the Tom Hanks character from Catch Me If You Can or something like that in there,
Sure. And that's what I'm saying. See, that's what bothers me. The fact that there is no payoff outside of, I think the sheriff arrests him at the end. That's literally it. And we have no, like, maybe he was in a position to let him go and he didn't. Like, we didn't do any, like,
I thought maybe he was going to let him go, but it just kind of, I don't know. I have things to say about the ending, so we'll kind of put a pin in that for now.
But ultimately, it's really, I think what they were, if they were trying to set up anything, it just feels like, okay, we have one duo, and this is like the lawful duo, which are conflicting methods, but we didn't really say anything with that, though. It's like, hey, one's a little more out for blood with the Dobermans, the other one's like, we just need the hound dogs. That's all.
Right, yeah.
All right.
So you and I are in agreement that it really just doesn't make much difference to the movie one way or another.
Exactly. So there's another thing I have that is just something that wouldn't. Well, we'll get to when we get there. I don't want to jump too ahead here, but let's talk about our leads. Let's talk about Joker and Cullen here. Let's talk about so Tony Curtis. Tiki, if there's 150s slang that we're going to be saying by the end of this, it's got to be Charlie Potatoes, right?
Charlie Potatoes. Oh my God.
the shorthand 50s.
Like, that was such a Jimmy McGillism.
Yep. We'll be Charlie Potatoes, Kim.
I loved it. Yeah.
There's a Better
It
Call
totally
Saul.
is like this character's equivalent of Slippin' Jimmy Dragon.
It is, him wanting, basically the more affluent life. He's a schemer who wanted to be on top, essentially. A little bit of a Jimmy. Speaking of which, did you see the trailer for the Slippin' Jimmy animated thing?
No. I've been kind of avoiding the marketing, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be like the new short thing they do when the episodes come out.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay. Anyway,
I know there's been some teasers. I've been avoiding them.
Don't get too excited about the teasers. They worked it into like that.
That's why I've been avoiding them, Dragon, is that I know there's not going to be much anyways.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Okay, point being, so this guy...
Believe me, when a full trailer comes out, I'll watch it. But
of course. So anyways, the point of Joker was he's like he's in for armed robbery because, he had dreams of being Charlie Potatoes.
Charlie Potatoes!
and that's the thing, I love
well,
that...
I think we know what our end tag is going to be, Dragon.
Yes, so I love that Tony Curtis is playing, playing opposite of what he usually is. He's playing a rough and tumble character that, instead of being all regal and handsome, is kind of... is bigoted, but again, not out to hate. It's been grandfathered into him, and he's very much a learning character, if you will, as it kind of goes forward. And then we have on the opposite end here, we have Cullen, who is I think this character does represent kind of the core of what Poitier usually plays, just not as surface level. Like, on the whole, like, Poitier usually plays kind of like the dignified to a T, like the man in the suit who's very much of like black excellence represented at its finest. Where here it's like that is there, but just obviously the rough and tumbleness being like this guy's gonna be trekking through mud and everything. We can't exactly visually present dignity, but we present it in the core of like what's at the core of all these Poitier performances of I won't take it. That whole aspect of like the whole reason he's in prison, for instance. Guy pulled a gun on him on his land, and
just total injustice, man. Just total injustice, and it really is kind of crazy how I don't want to get too deep into this politically, because Dragon, let's just illustrate right now, because we have to illustrate it every Black History Heroes.
If we had a diagram, we would have this. It would be a man skiing, but not just any man. It would be the great David Hyde Pierce, who, basically as white bread, 1%er Americana as one will find, especially in a 90s context. But just go with me on this. You have David Hyde Pierce, the regal man himself, dusting off his skis before he goes down the mighty slope. Just it's going down the slope. That image right there, I've just painted in your minds, kind of like Rabbit in a snowstorm to some degree. That is Tiki and myself. We're the whitest white men to walk the earth. We are,
and so that's why we're not going to talk too deep about like the current day issues, Dragon, because But in regards to, it's just crazy how much it can still, like that, especially why he's imprisoned, can reflect like the current day situation going on.
I do like the additional layer though of it was kind of like a guy just had it bottled up, where he took the gun from the guy and then he basically almost beat him near to death before he was thrown off, and he probably
right. That does add a little bit of ambiguousness to it for sure.
But again, you understand, like when they get into the discussion of words and kind of like the motivations behind things, it's like you understand, like a guy basically, again, it's pretty much kind of racism 101 for the white man to a degree through the movie in a good way, which is kind of like a diagram.
Again, good green book.
Fine. Always gotta throw it under the bus.
Oh, I love to.
Can't just let me have, like, it was a nice movie. Anyway, we're gonna refocus. So, point being, just like this guy. So again, one guy is pursuing, essentially was pursuing the greed of like better things and greener pastures, where our guy here is simply he's pursuing freedom and maybe reconciliation with his family, which, by the way, speaks to something we spoke of briefly with the guest who's coming to dinner here, which is a little bit more on display here. The Cullen character is afraid that his son won't recognize him because he's been in jail for, I believe, 8 years at this point, and his son was like 5 going in. He's going to grow up without his father, which is kind of an omnipresent fear through many stories in the Black community of the
Oh
strife
yeah,
between fathers
absolutely.
and
It's a
sons, and
prominent part of the Black experience, from what I know.
fathers being taken away from sons and the issues
Uh-huh.
that come with that. So yeah, so this is very much like a very relevant issue even in the 50s, which is very. Which again was again we touched on a lot of really powerful stuff with the Cullen character, which again is in service of educating Joker, I guess in the broad spectrum of what Kramer's trying to do with the movie, educate maybe the slightly bigoted audiences, the majorly bigoted audiences.
Yeah.
All right, so we already talked to the sheriff. So again, speaking more of that, just diving into some of the other aspects of the movie. So the dynamic between these two and the dialogue itself. The dialogue is really on point. We get a lot of really great lines and really great kind of conversations between these two that to kind of progress our arc forward.
Yeah, like I said, I think one of my favorite scenes is the breakdown on how the different words affect the characters in the different ways. Like that to me is just like fluent, like screenwriting 101, how to build characters through dialogue. I was hanging on every word of that.
Yeah, and we hit kind of like the double standard, and basically how Tony Curtis's character is like, oh, you shouldn't let that get to you, and of course he's wanting like a whole tirade of how thanks gets on his nerves.
Exactly.
I just love just the goal of like, oh, really, because looking back on, I got to admit, but it buys it back for me. He's like, thanks, really? That's the word that bothers you, really? Like, thank you? That's the word.
No, but the script breaks it down, Dragon. Yeah. It breaks it down and I get it.
Yeah. I mean, particularly again, the reason what saved it for me is
honestly, like, anyone who's like the whole like, okay, like you're thanking the person for the opportunity for you to do the job for them.
Exactly. So ultimately, again, it does find its way around. Like on its face, it's like, really, thank you is the word that's gonna get him. But think about that. Beyond that, think of this correlation. Thanks, boss. Yes, sir, boss.
Yes, and that right there with Poitier, that's a big moment with him too.
I mean, when he's crushing that rock, saying yes, sir, boss. Like yes, sir. It's just like he's so ticked off that he's stuck with his lunkhead, and he's got he's like, oh, he's calling me boy and everything. This is gonna suck. Just hit the rock, trying to get that chain off. So yeah, it's just. And I love it. Basically, we're giving Joker a taste of what not having a choice is like, just with this whole situation and with like the word and the hangups and everything. The word hangups and everything. This is what you don't have a choice in what you're called and what you're referred to as. Being called boy and everything. You don't like it, but everyone's going to call you that. It's not fair. So again, they're begrudgingly seeing the others' roles in perspective, in conjunction with their own hangups, is seeing like, things tick him off too, and things tick me off, and there's a Venn diagram crossover there, which is really nice.
Oh.
All right, so again, the tone was set already when the sheriff had that setup line. They're going to kill each other. One of my favorite visuals of the movie, honestly, this is Poitier to a T. If he had the like soundbite him almost, is when more of a visual soundbite, but when. The old poster of this. I don't know if you've ever seen the old poster for the Defiant ones.
Because I have, and I love the poster.
I mean, that's like the old poster kind of bothered me because it was a little bit more of like they're not shirtless at all during this movie, and yet we have like the shirtless like fight going on. It's kind of weird.
No, but what I like about the poster is that what I like about that poster in particular is that it is kind of like a very abstract visual representation of the themes.
It is interesting to say the least. I mean, that was not my go-to, as you can probably see here, but it wasn't. It's interesting, but regardless, what we have, I think, better encapsulated in the movie is. These guys are going to fight each other during this movie while chained together, which is already kind of a fun idea and concept. But just seeing that happen and Tony Curtis swing the first punch and Poitier block that punch, just grab his hand and just spell out to him. It's like, hey, you want to tussle, we'll do it later. Okay, and I believe we are going to do it later. I think the perfect line to sum up their situation is, we are married, and here's the ring. It's like, yes! Yes.
Exactly.
Literal ball and chain. Yeah. And this is the fact their whole plan for this movie. They had no choice but to go with Poitier's like 8-year gamble of like, it's been 8 years since he's been on the outside to know this train thing's even going to run. And they're just going to have to bet on, and they can't just walk to the south to like the girl he has, that Tony Curtis character has, like the girl waiting for him, because you're handcuffed to a black man in the south. That's not going to end well for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So our action set pieces, and again, just seeing them kind of get tired throughout the course of the movie, making their way from point A to point B to going around the swamp. It's quite harrowing. I mean, the rapids, for example.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, Dragon, it did kind of like the rapids, the wall of clay. That was the one that really got to me as far
What
as
makes you say clay? I'm assuming mud. Is it? Do you think it's clay?
mud. Yeah, you're right.
Right. I mean, they
When
probably
they jump into the mud, and like I said, there's just a palatable air of like, oh man, like you can imagine what the shoot's like, and you can imagine the hours of like walking around, and and you can see it on their faces too.
Plus, when they have to run from like, that whole like running in the maze of the town itself too, like they had that. But the mud pit was the hardest thing they had to shoot in the movie, by the way, because
I am not surprised in the slightest.
I mean, you can kind of see it. Again, the whole point of that scene is like they're going to injure themselves getting out of there because you have to like to lift the guy out of there when you're chained by the wrist. And remember, that's where we get the big infection plot line, which is horrifying, especially for the 50s. Like Jackson's hand, he gets scratched like holding onto that metal thing, and he gets a wound that gets infected, and it really takes its toll through the course of the movie. That's like that's a heady graphic thing we do even for 58.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the Turpentine Camp, basically the small town, the Turpentine Camp that's on the way of the train. That scene is such a tense sequence when they have to sneak into that general store and they get caught. And the threat of the angry mob, dear God, that angry mob threat gets really tense. Like, oh God, there's going to be a lynching in this movie. And we talk about it and how terrifying it is from the white man.
And I love the build up to that too, where they're just like on the hillside. Like it's like probably the first scene in the movie where they're really warming up to each other and they're waiting for the for the lights in the windows to go down. There's like a really atmospheric kind of calm before the storm element of that scene.
I love how we shoot. I mean, this is going to be an obvious statement, but I really love how the black and white looks in this film. I love how, like, when they're cornered in the general store, darkness is really your friend in this scene, and then by proxy, you have the when even in broad daylight, when they're in that mud pit and it's pouring rain, that just looks really good and crystalline in terms of how they shot it. Even back then, it just looks beautiful in black and white. I felt.
Mm-hmm.
But yes. I mean, so big, literally big. We should talk about Big Sam, played by the great Lon Chaney Jr.
Oh man, that he was a shock to pop up, and of course he's got a super recognizable face.
Oh yeah, and he does a lapel grab, as Lon Chaney Jr. is known to do. He does the lapel grab. So I'm so in love in this movie with the whole like the threat of the lynching in terms of, but the genius idea. Let's see the terror of a lynching from a guy who thinks he's immune to it, and how he's kind of this kind of gets us to our low of lows to a degree. I know low of lows is literally when they kind of fall down the hill, but this is kind of getting us there. It's kind of like the eye opening of like it's like when they're chained together after they're caught here, and the lynching is avoided because Lon Chaney Jr. awesomely calls out the angry mob on, "We're not savages. What's wrong with you people? Go on, take the pitchfork, take the torch."
Right.
Oh, okay, plays that. So we're not doing it justice. He does it really well, folks. It's great. But yeah, all that. So is it the fact that Poitier spits in a guy's face when he says, "Go on, spit"? He tells Tony Curtis to spit on him, and he doesn't do it. So Poitier spits in the guy's face to insult him. Gutsy move, and I love how gutsy that is. And again, like it's like the stupid thing, a back thing. If it was like an infectious disease, just the opposite race, any DNA from the opposite race getting on you by touch or spit or whatever. So it's just this whole ridiculous thing. It's the fact that we have a conversation when they're bound together of like, hey, you pushed them too far. What were you doing spitting on him like that? Basically saying you kind of deserve the lynching after you narrowly avoided it yourself. Just the bigoted nature of that is having a conversation like it really sours the relationship for a bit. I really like that we went there with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we have like again as that lead. I'm sorry, that's what I meant by was that gets them when they're kind of sour each other for that, and then they're released by Big Sam. What do you think about the release by Big Sam? Big Sam letting them out.
I like it. I like that he's he just kind of feels like a like a good supporting character to be in that position. It honestly, Dragon, it kind of softens the blow of the sheriff not letting them go at the end of the movie because we already kind of see that.
Yeah, again, the only other scene that really necessitates the sheriff, ultimately. It's like the only other, it's like, hey, we have like an encounter of like setting up, hey, did you let anyone go? Nope.
Right.
Yeah, but I like that it was ambiguous. I like that we don't know why. It's just like kind of like a moral, like he just kind of felt something, though. There's no really good reason why he should let him go, but he does, outside just human decency, which I like to think that's ultimately the reason, just on happenstance. Like, he's going to let him go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that was nice. Anyway, so after then they get into fisticuffs after he says, "You're not a man, you're a monkey on a stick."
Oh,
Which I don't know
God.
how much sense that makes, but it's a good line. It's one of those '50s lines, like Charlie Potatoes. Just like you're a
Child of
monkey on a.
potatoes. Yeah. No, that's kind of one of the reasons why I like Tony Curtis's character so much is that he did have that kind of like 50s like strongman vibe to him.
Also, Poitier's diction and his delivery has always been so remarkably good. So we can say kind of a silly line like that, but have like all
And
the
here's the thing: is
like,
I like that Poitier in this movie is kind of more of the everyman than he was in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner too.
yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah. Oh, something we should talk about. I mean, again, we're just kind of out of our weight class here, but I think it's kind of worth bringing up because it never happens.
Uh-huh.
I think the one practical and excusable use of blackface was in this movie.
Oh God, you're right. Oh man.
But yeah,
I mean, it's basically camouflage.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. They got away with it. And it was a practical thing that made sense. We didn't feel like it
sure.
wasn't. For a moment, I was a little afraid, like, oh boy, I wonder how this is going to go. But no, it made sense. Yeah, it's going to dirt.
Yeah,
I wish his
I
face
don't
was.
I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh no, oh movie, what are you doing?
I was saying we kind of had to bring. Because I remember when Mary Poppins got into a little trouble because like a chimney thing. It was like, well, she went down a chimney. There's gonna be blackface
Right,
for a
and I
brief
think that's
bit.
stupid too.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. The
but
fact that people make a big deal out of everything, like as small as that, and this is like, okay, this is a movie about race relations, and we got away with blackface. It's pretty impressive
uh,
for a brief moment. Anyway, okay, yeah. So this now we're getting to the dicey part of the movie. So we have two characters that are introduced. We have Billy and Billy's mom. Now I like Billy. Billy's mom, on the other hand, I don't think she holds up.
yeah. I am more okay with it than you are, but I agree that it is not the best plot point.
So let's talk about the good before we get into the dicey here. So the kid, Billy the kid, if you will.
Billy the Kid. Yeah, so how good of a symbolism is it, just his initial reaction to the two men?
I think it's the most brilliant thing Kramer did in the movie. I really do.
It's pretty powerful.
It's brilliant and authentic. It's a brilliant and authentic statement on racism. Just in
To me,
one
it kind of
moment
reminds
there.
me of the Zootopia bus moment.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sure, a little bit
Uh-huh.
like that. Yeah, it's like I just love with the introduction of this kid. We knocked I believe Tony Curtis, but do you remember if Tony Curtis knocked out the kid? Because I think he did.
I don't remember. I'm sorry, not off the top of my
Okay, well,
head.
I'm just gonna work to make everything just sing. I'm gonna make the hills sing, as it were. I'm just gonna have Tony Curtis knock out the boy. Here's the point being Tony Curtis knocking out the boy. The boy hits his head on a rock, which initially I thought was gonna go a lot darker because it's been a while since I've seen the movies. I forgot, like, oh yeah, wait a minute, do they go with the
Uh-huh.
kid? Like, do we have the guts to kill kids in this movie? Thankfully, no. So the kid hits his head. Joker wants to leave him. Cullen doesn't, and his reward. The boy comes to, treats him like a monster, and cowers, I'm going to assume, to the man who knocked him out and left it. Wanted to leave the boy for dead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and wanted to leave the boy for dead. I'm going to cower behind. Don't let him get me. As he cowers behind. Hey, that's the guy who knocked you out and left you for dead. You're going to cower behind him like he's the good guy.
Okay, so this leads me to why I don't think the mother is as problematic of a character as you might think, is because I think the whole point of this family is that point that you just illustrated, Dragon.
That they're a little backwards.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know, Dragon. There is, like, as far as the mother goes, I do think the scene where she's like freaking begging Tony Curtis not to leave her. I think that's a powerful moment just as far as acting goes. If only because like you were absolutely not on her side at that point. And honestly, I did call what she was going to do. And so because of that, I didn't really think it came out of left field. I thought it was a pretty natural plot development, honestly. And I like that the movie kind of like played with this whole thing of like, you feel this woman, but at the same time, what she does is irredeemable.
Well, it's not so much what she does that bothers me. The reason I don't think here's the reason I don't think the mother holds up is the fact that she is, and I do like that we call it out, though. I will give it that benefit. Where it's just where I don't buy that she's held hostage by two convicts and she falls for one of them just because he looks like Tony Curtis, let alone wanting to go.
That is it's funny that you mentioned that, because now that I know the Tony Curtis being kind of the pretty boy, now that I know that context, it does kind of feel like almost like a studio mandate of like, all right, Tony Curtis has to have a love interest in this movie. A pretty lady has to fall for Tony.
And that's the thing. That's one thing. And then it gets a little worse for me when it's like, let alone that woman wanting to go as far in like less than a day, less than 24. It's not even like the 10-day thing from Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It's like less than a day. She wants to run away with him because it's the 50s.
I will argue that I could sense the desperation in the performance, and that, like, as far as writing goes, you're absolutely right. However, I think Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, the getting married in 10 days thing is equally insane, honestly.
I mean, to be fair, you saw how charming Poitier was, though. Come on.
I know. I'm just saying on the writing level, and I'm saying, like, as far as the performance goes, I can buy this woman's desperation.
Yeah, but she seemed to be getting along fine before they got there. That's the thing that throws me off of that, T.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, if we saw she was really haggard, I mean...
Dragon, I didn't know what to tell you. Tony Curtis just has that effect on people, man.
And that's the thing. The only thing that kind of remotely saves that for me, and ultimately, even if this did save it for me, just the fact that this happens right before the most important part of the movie, is just the fact that you don't even know my name, which is a really good call out of that. Like, I'm not going with you. You don't even know my name.
Right.
This is crazy. But
all right.
Just the fact that leads to like, hey, we're. So I'm sorry. Let me frame.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's the important element of the story at this point is we're forcing. Sorry, I like that we have the arc going in the direction of there's a mutual respect that's forming, even if the Tony Curtis character won't acknowledge it. Where there's a developing friendship that he just won't admit to. Where while being held hostage, she forces her to serve Cullen like
this picture winner.
Come on!
I'm sorry.
Why you gotta be so catty about it?
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
No, you could resist. You chose not to.
I know. You're right. All right.
Anyway, the point being, I'm trying to find my point again. Thanks. So he forces her to serve Cullen because at this point, the mutual respect and the friendships develop. Like, hey, bring him some coffee too, and food as well. I'm holding you hostage, and like treat him civilly because he's my buddy now. We're learning from each other.
Yeah.
We have like the Toy Story thing, kind of again the inception of it, I suppose, here, where it's like the climax of Toy Story chasing after the movie band. They're sacrificing each other. They're sacrificing themselves for each other along the way. Like, go, I'll catch up. Or like, take care of Andy for me.
So would that make this woman Mr. Potato Head?
I mean, essentially, I guess. I guess it was kind of a collective at the end of Toy Story, but primarily Potato Head, I guess, maybe. It's kind of a messy analogy, but okay. Okay, but you see my point, though. It's the fact that we're making really big strides.
You say Potato Head's the, pardon the choice of words, but he's the head of the, of the opposition.
No, he was indeed. Like, it's funny. Like, I remember when, I don't know if you've ever seen this. I think sometimes there's some sort of list. I don't know if it was just on Wikipedia for a time where they changed this or what, or like sometimes Potato had been labeled one of the antagonists when they're listing the villains in the Toy Story franchise.
Oh, I can see it. Honestly.
I mean, he was the opposition. I mean, that's the thing. The people who don't want to count Sid, and sometimes they might go to
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like Sid is definitely a villain. I mean, come on. But I feel like Potato Head is honestly more of a personal and direct antagonist.
Right. Again, more like high school bully than more. This way, the Potato Head is like Flash Thompson, that like not Tony.
That's
Revolori
fair. That's fair.
Not Revolori Flash Thompson, but
right, Dragon. This is not a Potato Head podcast.
Well, you brought him up.
I know.
So, Okay, anyway, so point being is like we have that development going on amidst this scene, which I do like, and then it's like, hey, run away with me. So, anyway, so getting back to the sacrificial, and he takes us to the train scene. All of this is by way of getting us to they split up, and the Jackson character he sacrifices his own getaway to warn Cullen that he's been set up by this crazy lady.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get the famous train scene, which essentially is the blueprint for the moving van at the end of Toy Story, and again,
So
verbatim.
first of all, I need to acknowledge my favorite line, which is I forget exactly how it goes. Like I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but where Poitier is like, "Come on, man, you're pulling the chain."
Yeah, it's a good line.
That was powerful for me. That was powerful. That was like that was kind of like bringing the visual metaphor of the chain full circle. The chain now being their bond. I that really kind of made me well up just a little bit, Dragon.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair, you are a little emotional, as we all are after Kid Costume with their whole link the chain thing. So I don't know if maybe that had a little bit to do with it, but you're right. No, you're right though. It's an excellent callback. I mean, I went more for the kind of the symbolism of like the fact that we go full circle with the ending, with their being kind of chained together, but not really. The fact that they're on this adventure together without being chained up. But I love that.
Exactly. To me, that is a perfect kind of like full circle narrative with the screenwriting.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the train scene in itself, just again with that line and just with them being one, it's like who doesn't love a climax with a train? Let's just say that just on principle. Who doesn't like a good a train hopping?
I mean, I would dare people to think of a bad climax that involves a train, Dragon.
That's what I'm saying. Either climax that involves a train or a train.
It's like Alfred.
Film. Yeah. So and two, it's just they're so darn close, and again, it's sort of like
okay. Tell me that when you were watching this, you didn't on some level be like, "Go, you can make it."
Yeah, every time it's like, "Oh, he's so close, come on!" But again, I love this. The movie ultimately is kind of a medical PSA on beware.
Poitier gets onto the damn train, man. He's there.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if but I guess since you hadn't seen the movie, maybe you're not aware of this. I'm going to tell you something.
Okay.
So, something really big happened when this movie came out. When this movie came out, there were two audience reactions to this big moment. So, the white audiences, they loved it. Because, of course, for the obvious reasons. But, the black audience was very upset with this because, again, he was so close to getting away. I think they wanted kind of the Jordan Peele kind of version of this film where he leaves them. They wanted the Jordan Peele kind of get out version. Where
I could see Jordan Peele making a version of this.
I could absolutely see him making a version. I'm just saying I think he would have skewed the way of like, well, it's like you reap what you sow. Ultimately, for you weren't a good person at the start of this movie, ergo you're going to be left to rot.
Right.
I'm not saying it's what they should have done with this movie. I'm just saying I could see that in a Jordan Peele remake. but yeah, it's the fact that he I think it was just a little more like, the totality of it all. And they were very much on the Poitier character's side. This film is the fact of like, oh, he lost it all because he went back for him and he reached out. Because that's the thing. If he just let him jump on his own, he would have.
Yeah, I could see that. I could honestly see that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was the big thing that I guess not the critics, but the audience is kind of held against the movie. They loved it until that point. It was like,
I see their point. I do, Dragon. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I like just the whole chain together.
Like it's an that honestly kind of makes the ending even more interesting for me because it makes it even more like ambiguous as far as like did he make the right call?
I mean, for me, I wonder if you had this. I wonder if Tony Curtis's character even survives the end of the movie because he's in really bad
I don't think he does.
Because that's the thing, which makes it even more tragic for those reasons.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I just gained a newfound appreciation for the ending, Dragon.
See, that's the thing. The movie is kind of like a scary medical PSA on beware infections.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Dragon, like I said, he was on the damn train,
and he has what sounds like dying last words. We gave him a run for it, didn't we? Again, he's absolutely on the train. He didn't have to help out.
Honestly, Dragon, that makes the ending frustrating in a really kind of beautiful way. I love it. I love it.
Again, we go full circle perfectly with the ending where the sheriff is back in the scene with him as he comes on the scene. He's singing "Long Gone" to comfort his kind of his chain gang kind of like partner in crime here. kind of the comfort him possibly in his dying moments, at the very least in his wounded moments, to kind of comfort him as like they're both kind of like going back to prison, and or just him going again. The more tragic version, he's going back after having sacrificed everything and kind of gained an appreciation, but still all of it for nothing, sadly. So just again, just tragic yet just the moral the give. It feels like a moral outcome, given that they are criminals at the end of the day, and criminals for reasons. I mean, by society they are criminals, but clearly unfairly in the case of the Poitier character. Again, almost killed the man, but it had been built up because of the society we had cultivated at that point. Where I'm just going to call this because we forgot to mention this. He had that moment earlier when they were kind of chatting and kind of talking about their upbringings and the whole be nice thing. When he's talking about the whole spitting thing, like we didn't have to spit on the guy. It was just be nice, be nice. Just the sad fact that his wife had told their kid constantly to be nice, and the horrible implications of
yes.
As a black man, with a black family, you would have to essentially like teach subservience and surrender to the next generation, to your children, and that's what would lead a man to snap like that when you have the opportunity. That's the thing. Poitier was always known, like the biggest thing he's known for when we get to Heat of the Night is Poitier was the first time you saw a black man on screen slap a guy who hit him. That was the huge thing that Poitier had going for him. So the fact that this movie kind of like paints, kind of sets that sort of thing up where, yeah, the first black man on film to really fight back an oppressor, which is huge. Outside of being like back in the olden days, just kind of like, a black guy's cast in the villainous light, which was, obviously was not PC.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was, it was kind of like had like a sad kind of like moral complexity to, they are criminals. So it's like a 50 sensibility thing where we can't let them get away. They have to be caught in the end, but you rooted for them. The thing that was commonplace.
Yeah, it could be a 50s thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's the fact that it's like something that's commonplace for us now with our shows, like your Better Call Sauls and your Breaking Bad. You're rooting for the bad guys to get away. We're so used to now in the culture. Back then, it's like it's like Kramer thinking for like, I want people to root for this, but be sad that they're not getting away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Dragon. I feel like we've pretty much talked through everything, right?
Yeah, just let's round it out with some kind of legacy, kind of final thoughts, kind of like any final kind of thoughts.
I don't have much else to say, Dragon. I think it kind of speaks for itself. Unfortunately, I do really think that the police stuff kind of drags it down just a little bit as far as pacing goes and tone goes, if anything else. I don't mind that third act stuff as much as you do. I think it feeds into the narrative quite nicely. And yeah, I mean, as we obviously just kind of like discovered with the end point, there's like, there's several layers to the ending that I didn't even realize when I first watched it. So definitely a film that makes me kind of hungry to check out other films of the era, and kind of makes me realize that I'm missing out on a lot of classic cinema. So yeah, I definitely have this to thank for that. I'm really stoked about that moving forward. So
in regards to the legacy of it all, again, this landed Tony Curtis. I believe Tony Curtis' only Oscar nomination, I think. Could be. Sidney Poitier made history. This was the first Academy Award nomination. He didn't get the win yet, but this is his first nomination for a black actor, period. That was big, for I argue again, birthed the buddy movie. Without we have no Toy Story, we have no kind of duos. We possibly don't have an Odd Couple, or Odd Couples.
Right.
Who knows? Yeah. Again, it was radical and gutsy for 58. Poitier's breakout role that put him in the spotlight and kind of led him to the mainstream breakout a year later with Porgy and Bess, and and going forward to your stuff like the big year of 67. Which if there were a jersey, if there were a commemorative Poitier memorial jersey, would say the year. It would say the number 67, folks. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah. I feel like it's his equivalent to 37. It's 67.
All right. Okay, well, that's all for now, folks. Until next time, when we look at the next film in Sidney Poitier's catalog that showed us the world's not simply black or white, but brimming with color, as well as character.
Charlie Potatoes.
on the next installment of Black History Heroes.
We're in the Charlie potatoes now, boys.
Charlie potatoes.
Peel the potatoes.